So, good morning to all first semester students of biotechnology. Today, um, I will discuss about the gene therapy chapter that is given in your GE paper, that is in your biotechnology and human welfare syllabus. We have just actually done introduction based on the gene therapy in the last class in the offline. So let's get started now. Now, those students who were absent on that very day, I will try to say that just a little bit introduction about the gene therapy. What is gene therapy? And then I will go for the whole procedure of ex vivo gene therapy and in vivo gene therapy, which has been mentioned here in your syllabus. Okay, so let's get started now. So, what is actually your gene therapy is? Gene therapy is actually your it is an experimental technique, okay, that uses the genes to treat or prevent certain disease. Okay, and in future this gene therapy technique may allow the doctors to treat a certain disorder by just inserting a gene into a patient's cells instead of using drugs, instead of using synthetic drugs or surgery. Researchers researchers are nowadays testing several approaches to gene therapy, like they are replacing a mutated gene, that means the gene whose nucleotide sequence has been altered, that makes that gene non-functional, that causes that disease. um, and we are replacing that mutated gene with a healthy copy of that same gene with the help of through carrier molecules like vectors, or we may culture them in the lab outside, treating with the cells with inserting our gene of interest, as we have seen in the recombinant DNA technology techniques. And then we will implant those cells into the patient. In another way, we can inactivate or knocking out of that mutated gene that is functioning improperly. So the gene which is causing that problem, suppose due to mutation, some regulatory genes has been mutated, their nucleotide sequence has been altered, and due to which what happened, it abnormally it leads to the formation of certain disease. So we can inactivate that particular very gene by using a complementary sequence of that gene to inactivate it. That means we can knock out the function of that gene. So these are the two ways. First is we can replace the mutated gene with our normal gene. We can knock out a mutated gene which is functioning improperly, or we can introduce new gene to the body for helping us to fight against that particular certain disease. So here in this notes, it is given that gene therapy is the process of inserting gene into the cell to treat disease, right? And the newly introduced genes will encode normal proteins and will try to correct that deficiency that occurs within the genetic disease. So, your gene therapy primarily involves genetic manipulations. We are regulating our genes. Okay, so we are regulating our genes in animals or in humans to correct a disease, right? And keep the organism in good health. Okay, nowadays certain experiments are being carried out. Initial experiments were also carried out on gene therapy, okay, in animals, not in humans. Then later it was used in humans for treating certain disease like severe combined immune deficiency, then of cystic fibrosis. Your AIDS is also being nowadays being tried to test for the gene therapy. If we can able to use gene therapy for treatment of AIDS patient. Obviously, the goal or the main aim of the researchers is to benefit the mankind and improve the health of the human. So that's why it is included in your syllabus, in your biotechnology and human welfare, because somewhere this gene therapy is based on improving the health condition of human beings. We are using now animal models, okay, and then we will proceed by using the same therapy in the humans. Now gene therapy are of many types, like here it is mentioned gene augmentation therapy. In gene augmentation therapy, what we do, we are inserting the gene, we are inserting the DNA, which is responsible for the formation of certain protein. It is inserted within the genome of human, and we are replacing the missing gene product. That means somehow the normal gene become non-functional. Why? Because due to certain mutations, due to certain alteration in the nucleotide bases. You all know about nucleotide bases. Adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine are the four nitrogenous nucleotide bases which are arranged at the middle of your DNA, a double helical structure, and interact with one another with hydrogen bonds. So we are actually replacing that missing gene product due to alteration of the genes. Okay, what happened? Due to alteration of the genes, that particular gene become non-functional, and maybe that particular gene is not producing that desirable protein product during translation. So what happens, what we do in gene augmentation therapy, we are trying to introduce that particular normal gene which will be producing that normal protein into the genome of human beings. Now this can be done in two ways. This can be done in two ways. DNA is inserted into the genome of human beings in two ways. Here we comes to procedure of ex vivo gene therapy, which I have taught in your previous classes, in your previous first class, the last class that we have taught. And another one is called in vivo gene therapy. I think it is in vitro. Maybe I am a little bit wrong. Okay, I think it is in vitro. No, I'm right. In vivo gene therapy. It will be in vivo gene therapy. Okay. So, no problem. So, in gene augmentation therapy, what we are doing, we are inserting the DNA into the genome of human, either by ex vivo gene therapy or by in vivo gene therapy, and we are replacing that missing gene product. There is another therapy called gene inhibition therapy. That means in this therapy we will inhibit the malfunctional gene product. Okay, so in gene inhibition therapy we will use an antisense gene which will inhibit the expression of the dominant gene. So somehow if some regulatory genes, if it is mutated, suppose, and makes an abnormal protein, suppose it makes an abnormal protein, then we have to eliminate that gene, that regulatory gene. Okay, because it has become malfunctional, and we will, for this we have to use a complementary strand. We have to use a complementary strand that will base pair and will inhibit that gene product, maybe in the level of DNA or maybe in the level of RNA. That means when the gene is transcribing into RNA, okay, like for instance, suppose this is your normal gene, uh, it was used to be T in that particular place, but it has now become substituted by C, suppose, and make that gene abnormal, becomes malfunctional. Okay, or it is overexpressing, it is not controlling the regulation of that particular gene product. So abnormal gene product is being produced, abnormal protein is being produced. Okay, So to make them to cure the disease which is producing this abnormal protein, we have to use an antisense gene which will be complementary to that gene, which will try to base pair and will try to prevent it. Now this can be done in mRNA level also, called as mRNA silencing, where the mRNA of that defective gene can be inhibited by using a complementary strand of that mRNA to base pair with them. And you know, double stranded mRNA will not lead to the formation of protein. Okay, single strand mRNA is only used for translation process, not double stranded RNA. Now, this can be done in many ways through RNA silencing, through RNA editing. Also, you can also do this process to inhibit the function of that defective gene, which is producing defective protein product that causing a particular certain disease in humans. So that type of therapy is called gene inhibition therapy, where we are using a complementary gene called antisense gene which will inhibit the expression of that dominant gene. Now, this is done in RNA level, not in DNA level, because DNA is already double stranded. It is used in RNA level, where RNA has to be made double stranded by using a complementary sequence of that RNA. Okay, so this was an overview. Now I am going to discuss about this gene therapy. Okay, so here the picture that you can see what I have said about the augmentation gene therapy and gene inhibition therapy, what we are doing. Let us see. So here you can see a defective gene is there, and by introducing a functional gene, we are replacing the function of that defective gene. This defective gene is not producing that particular protein product. That's why it leads to certain disease, certain disorder. Okay, so by introducing that functional gene, it is producing a normal protein, and in this way we can restore the health condition of that particular patient. Second is um, gene inhibition therapy. In gene inhibition therapy, suppose this is a gene which has become mutated and become malfunctional. It is suppose it is overexpressing, okay, or it is not regulating the particular event, that particular thing. For example, better to say, most of the cell cycle regulatory proteins, if they become if they become mutated, they will not regulate the cell cycle. They will not regulate the G1 phase, S phase, G2 phase, which are all the events that has to be done in a correct manner, correct sequence. Okay, so these cell cycle regulatory proteins, if they get mutated, then they become they may become malfunctional, or they become in overexpression, and thus we have to prevent it, okay, by knocking out, by making that gene inactivated. Now for this, and then we will have to introduce that normal gene also in next step. So firstly we have to eliminate the function of this dominant functional gene, and for this reason we have to use an antisense gene which is complementary to that normal gene. This antisense gene will block the expression of that normal of that dominant mutated gene. Okay, so it will have a inhibitory action. Okay, and then by knocking out that particular gene, then we will actually will introduce a normal gene for the particular function of that that used to be in this gene. Okay, so this was about the gene therapy. Now there are also other approaches for gene therapy. That means on which cell, on which tissues we are applying. Okay, that has to be mentioned, based on what type of tissues we are using, what type of on which site we are using the gene therapy. Based on that, there are also two types. One is called somatic gene therapy, another one is called germ cell gene therapy. This is also This type of short questions may come. Somatic cell gene therapy, as the name suggests, somatic cell therapy means we will use the gene therapy whole approach in the somatic cells, in the normal body cells. So it is saying that it is saying that the non-reproductive or non-sex cell of an organism is called as somatic cells, and these are the cells of an organism other than sperm or egg cells. You all know from your junior classes that the somatic cells are the normal cells other than the sex cells, like bone marrow cell, blood cell, skin cell, intestinal cells. These are the normal cells, somatic cells, which are used for the gene therapy. At present, all research on gene therapy is directed to correct the genetic defects in somatic cells. Nowadays, we are applying the gene therapy on the somatic cells. Okay, not on the sex cells. Well, sex cells can also be applied, it can be also be done to rectify a correct disorder in and it can be passed on to the generations. That's why there will be an ethical issue that may come. That's why germline gene therapy is not being applicable till now in humans. Well, animal models are being prepared. So in somatic cells, these are the normal cells which are we are using for the somatic cell gene therapy, like bone marrow cells, blood cells, skin cells, and intestinal cells. Okay, now at present, all research on gene therapy is directly done to correct the genetic defects in the somatic cells. So we are trying to we are applying the gene therapy on somatic cells nowadays, not on germ cells. In essence, somatic cell gene therapy involves insertion of a fully functional and expressible gene into the target somatic cell to correct a genetic disease permanently. So, simple thing, we are inserting the normal gene, which will be further expressed to form that protein, functionable protein, into the target somatic cell. Now based on that, what type of where we want to get target, where we want to express that gene, we have to first isolate that particular cells. We have to isolate that particular cells from that particular patient, and we have to treat them with various methods to insert that gene, deliver into that particular very cell via either directly or indirectly with the help of carrier molecules called as vectors. Now various vectors are being used nowadays. Well, we can not use here plasmids, but we can use other modes, like we can use virus as a vector. As you will see, we can use virus as a vector. We can use artificial chromosomes. We can use artificial, sorry for the spelling mistake, artificial chromosomes, artificial chromosomes as a vector. Okay, other vectors can also be applied, like artificial chromosomes, virus. Okay, bone marrow cells can directly be used. If it is a if the problem is related to blood or lymph, then related disorder, then we can use bone marrow cells directly used for the gene therapy. Okay. The second type of gene therapy is called germ cell gene therapy. And what does germ cell means? You all know, the sex cells which can be applied, which can be used to deliver our gene of interest into that type of cells. So the reproductive or sex cells of an organism constitute germ cell line. Gene therapy involving introduction of DNA into the germ cell, and after introduction of the gene into the germ cell, that gene will be expressed onto the successive generations as well, because the sex cells will be passed on to the next generations, next progeny. So that's why, due to for ethical reasons, there are some technical reasons also, germ cell gene therapy is not being attempted at present, but animal models are being prepared nowadays through this germ cell gene therapy, and thus we can able to cure certain disorders like AIDS, like SCID, okay, through this germ cell gene therapy. Well, through somatic cell therapy we can also rectify, we can also cure um, many disorders listed below in these notes. Okay, so the genetic alterations in the somatic cell are not carried to the next generation, but if we are using somatic cell, it will be not carried to the next generation, right? Therefore, somatic cell gene therapy is preferred and extensively studied with ultimate object to correct a human disease. Well, the disadvantage of somatic gene therapy is it will be not passed to the next generation. Okay, suppose some patient have a serious genetic defect in their somatic cells, and it may pass to the next generation if it is not rectified. We may rectify, we may cure that disease. Okay, we may cure the disease, that genetic defect in that patient, but that defect will that as we have cured that disease, it will be not passed to the next generation. Okay, because it is remaining in that somatic cell only. Okay, not in, it is not passed to the germ cells actually. So again, if in the next progeny, if that disease may occur again. So here is a list of some genetic disorders and other disease which are currently uh, through gene therapy we are testing them, trying to cure them. That means what we say trials, okay, right? Some important ones is given in table 29.1. We will see them. So here is a list of disease. Here is a list of disease which are being used. Well, uh, certain diseases are there. Wait for a minute. Okay, so like for instance, if I zoom it in, you can able to see it. Okay. Okay, the first disease that we will study about this gene therapy is your severe combined immunodeficiency, which is called SCID. This can be cured with the help of gene therapy. Okay, and what type of gene therapy we use actually is, we'll study them now through ex vivo gene therapy. Okay, through ex vivo gene therapy we can able to cure this SCID, and mainly the gene responsible for this SCID is too defective of a gene which produce this enzyme called adenosine deaminase, ADA. The gene name is ADA gene in small. You should write the gene names in small letter. Sometimes capital letter is also used. Okay, so the gene responsible for this severe combined immunodeficiency is your ADA, adenosine deaminase. Okay, now what we will do, the gene responsible for ADA, if it is getting defected, then it leads to SCID. And what happens in SCID, as you can see, immunodeficiency is saying. So when we will study them in detail, you will see it is related with the immune systems, related with the B cells, B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, right? Okay, so we have to rectify them by inserting a normal gene responsible for adenosine deaminase, right? Next, we will see about this disease also, cystic fibrosis. In short, we write as CF. This cystic fibrosis is actually occurred due to the defectiveness of a gene which is responsible for this protein production, cystic fibrosis transmembrane regulator. CFTR. Okay, so cystic fibrosis transmembrane regulator is a protein which is maintaining some as you can imagine transmembrane. That means this protein is involved in certain transport of certain molecules in and out from the cell, and it is you will see them later on that this is occurring in our lungs actually. Okay, so the gene responsible for this CFTR protein product, if it is getting mutated, if it is getting mutated, then they become non-functional of this CFTR protein. So we have to cure the we can cure this cystic fibrosis by inserting a gene which is responsible for this CFTR protein, normal CFTR protein. Other examples are also there is like yeah, this is a small thing, hemophilia B. Hemophilia B is occurring due to the gene defective for that factor 9. Factor 9 is essential for clotting, for blood clotting. Okay, factor 8, factor 9, factor 10. Okay, different clotting factors are involved for blood clotting process to occur. Okay, now factor 9 is also essential. If the gene responsible for factor 9, if it is getting mutated, it leads to hemophilia. So through gene therapy, we will use the gene responsible for normal factor 9 production to be introduced into the bloodstream through bone marrow. Via bone marrow, we can use, because it is a blood related disorder, right? Other are also there, as you can see, sickle cell anemia. Like sickle cell anemia, as you know, the blood gets sickle shape. Okay, not normal shape that we see, and due to sickle shape it will not able to transport throughout the blood vessels in a good way. It will carry less oxygen because of its malformed structure, and it occurs due to the abnormal beta globin production. Okay, uh, the gene responsible for the beta globin is becoming non-functional. We have to replace them with normal gene. So you can see various type of disease, even some tumor and some cancer are also being used for the gene therapy. You can use gene therapy for treating cancer also. You can see renal cancer. Okay, then you can see melanoma, renal cancer, which is occurring due to the abnormal expression of the gene responsible for the interleukin 2. Then head and neck cancer, the P53 gene, which is a tumor suppressor gene, as you know. Okay, then breast cancer, AIDS. Okay, different type of diabetes can also be treated through gene therapy. Can also be treated, and it occurs due to this glucose transporter 2. Okay, glucokinase, the protein responsible for phosphorylation. Okay, so we will now going to discuss about the ex vivo gene therapy and in vivo gene therapy. So what does ex vivo gene therapy means? In ex vivo gene therapy, these are the two main broad approaches. Okay, so ex vivo gene therapy means transfer of gene in cultured cells like bone marrow cells, which are then reintroduced into the patient. So simple thing, what we do in ex vivo gene therapy, we are actually use selected tissues from the patient. We isolate that selected tissues, and then we will then culture those tissues, culture those cells in the laboratory, and then we will try to transfer that gene into that culture cells, and we test for the presence, for if they are getting expressed or not in that culture cells, and then we will reintroduce that tissues again into the patient. Okay, in vivo gene therapy, you will see we are directly delivering the gene into the cell, into the human body patient of a particular tissue referred to as in vivo gene therapy. In vivo gene therapy, directly we are introducing the gene. Obviously that gene has to be expressed. For that reason that gene has to be including the gene, there is the promoter sequence, operator sequence, and all the sequence which are needed for expression of that gene. And directly with the help of a carrier molecule like vector, we are introducing them into the patient in the target tissue. So the in vivo gene therapy is, you can say, shortcut, very quickly process. No long lengthy process is needed, but there is an uncertainty, okay, that whether they are getting expressed or not, okay. But in ex vivo gene therapy, we are in every state we are manipulating the gene expression. We are checking for its expression. That means we are screening them, okay, um, by introduction of the gene into the culture cells. Then we are checking their expression. Then we will reintroduce that culture cells in the patient again. So let us see about the steps which are involved in ex vivo gene therapy. Okay, let us see. As it is mentioned here about this gene therapy, what we do. Wait. Okay. So the first step of ex vivo gene therapy, as you can see, I'm writing it. The first step that we can see is isolate the cells with a genetic defect from a patient. Isolate cells with genetic defect. The cells which have genetic defect, it may be a tissues also, genetic defect from a patient. From a patient. So first step is isolating the cells with a genetic defect from a patient. This is the first step. As you can see in this picture, it has been mentioned here. Okay. Then what we do? The next step is this one. This is the next step. Grow the cells in culture. That isolated cells are cultured. Grow the cells in culture. So the next step is to grow that cells in culture. Obviously in vitro. In vitro means within the lab. In vitro means in the laboratory. Okay. Now how you will culture the cells, you all know. There are certain you have seen little bit. You will furthermore you will see that we use particular medium. We use particular nutrient medium for the growth of these cells. Okay. Um, that is prepared synthetically in the laboratory, and we will culture them in the lab with proper temperature, pH, okay, humidity conditions. Within the certain instruments are used, like for culturing the cells we need a laminar airflow hood. We have to use a incubator to regulate the temperature. We have to use incubator for regulating the temperature, for regulating the pH. We have to use pH meter, okay, for studying. Okay, so and also we have to use certain medium also. Okay, a suitable culture medium is used. Suitable culture medium is used for the growth of these cells, so that it does not get died. Okay, so this is the second stage. Okay, so the third step is, now we have to introduce the therapeutic gene to correct the genetic defect. Okay, so this is the third step. Wait, so this is the third step. The third step is your introduce the therapeutic gene, we are introducing the therapeutic gene to correct the gene defect. Correct the gene defect. Okay, so here you can see therapeutic gene. That means the gene which has to be used for treatment of that particular disease facing by that patient, and we are introducing that gene to the cells to correct the gene defect. Now, how we can able to introduce the gene into the target cell, into the cultured cell? Now, for this we have to use certain approaches. As I have said, for this we have to use certain, directly we can also introduce. Therapeutic genes can be introduced through two ways. So it can be introduced through two ways. One is your direct approach. Well, direct approach, what can I say? Direct approach can be used but it is mainly preferable for germline cell therapy. It is preferably used for the germline cell therapy. But nowadays we use indirect approach. Like we use direct approach can be done wait for a minute. Direct approach can be done through micro injection technique. Okay, I have studied, you have studied all. Then through biolistic method. Okay, then liposome mediated method, where artificially created lipid vesicles are used, and within that lipid vesicles these therapeutic gene products are entrapped within it, and these lipid vesicles are allowed to with the help of phagocytosis, with the help of your endocytosis, not phagocytosis, with the help of endocytosis they are allowed to fuse with the target cells. As animals, human cells are not having cell wall, so they will fuse, and there may be possible that that gene may get delivered into that particular cell, okay, without getting damaged. Well, we use indirect approach, like we use viruses nowadays. We can use viruses, okay. Okay, or we may go for your human artificial chromosome, in short we say as hack. uh, Bone marrow cells are nowadays being used for this type of therapy, where most of the blood related disorder can be rectified using bone marrow cells, okay. Now especially the virus which are used is of retrovirus, the RNA containing virus, which has RNA as a genetic material, okay. Like normally the virus which are being used, it has to be remove out their pathogenic part. We have to eliminate their pathogenicity, and then we will use them for as a vector to deliver the our gene of interest, our therapeutic gene, into the target cells, okay. So this was the what point, this was the third point, okay. This was the third point. The fourth point is selection. This one, the fourth point is selection of the cells, okay, that have that therapeutic gene properly inserted and expressed. So for selection we use various techniques. Like when we are introducing the gene, we have used some selection agents also, we have used some selectable marker genes also, so that during the selection process we can able to understand understand that which cells are transformed, which cells are having our gene of interest correctly inserted. Okay, and we will now, after growing the cells for a certain time, then we will transplant, we will then introduced into the same patient. Okay, we will transplant is the fifth point. The fifth point is this: we will transplant that modified cells into the patient. So this is all about your ex vivo gene therapy. All has been written here. Okay, now the main thing is that so the main objective was we are using the patient's own cells for culture. We do correction of that gene, and then we return that cells back to the patient again. Okay, and this ex vivo gene therapy is efficient only if the therapeutic gene, that is the remedial gene, which will try to alleviate, which will try to cure, if it is stably incorporated and continuously expressed. So the main aim of this ex vivo gene therapy is your what can I say? Um, the main aim is we have to introduce that gene, the therapeutic gene, into the patient's cells which are being cultured here in the laboratory, and that gene has to be expressed. If it is not expressed, then this is of no use. Okay, all the process will become a failure. So it has to be expressed, it has to be stably incorporated within the genome of that, of human, of that particular cell, and it has to be expressed also. Now for expression of the gene, we have to use certain promoters. We all know about transcription little bit, as we have learned, class 12 classes, that for transcription to begin we need certain promoters, operators. Okay, ribosome binding sites for expression of that mRNA into protein. Okay, so we have for expression of the gene we need also all those things also. It has to be included within that within that therapeutic gene, and also we have to use selectable marker genes for proper selection during our culturing of process in the laboratory. Now normally through the help of vectors we achieve this whole thing. Okay, now what are the what vectors we are normally used for the gene therapy? The carrier particles or molecules used to deliver genes into the somatic cells are called as vectors. So vectors are simply carrier molecules. Okay, they are called carrier particles which actually used to deliver the genes into the somatic cells. And some important vectors which are employed in ex vivo gene therapy are your virus, human artificial chromosome. Sometimes directly bone marrow cells can be used as a carrier molecule. Okay, so it has been written here. You will see viruses, human artificial chromosomes, and bone marrow cells, which are used as a what? Vector, carrier molecule. So we need some carrier molecules so that it can able to insert properly within the culture cells and able to stably it has to be stabilized. Otherwise, if it is unstable, then some of the cells will have that gene expressed, some of the cell will not have that gene expressed. That will be of no use. Okay, so low expression of the gene will occur. So we have to stably integrated that insert that gene into the genome of that particular culture cells. So we will now begin about the virus, okay, which is used nowadays as a vector. Okay, and how we will make retrovirus harmless. That's the main objective that has not been mentioned here. I have given you the notes before. You have to watch all of this. I will discuss them here also. Okay. So, what it is saying about the virus, let us see. The vectors that are frequently used in gene therapy are viruses. Particularly, we use retrovirus. Retrovirus are those virus who have RNA as their genetic material. RNA is the genetic material in the retrovirus. Now, normally we know that as any retrovirus when enters to the host cell in mammalian cell, it will try to synthesize its DNA from the RNA by the process called reverse transcription. Now, during reverse transcription, we know that as they have their RNA as their genetic material, they will be used, this RNA will be used as a template to produce DNA by the help of a enzyme, and the name of the enzyme is reverse transcriptase. Reverse transcriptase. So with the help of reverse transcriptase enzyme, this RNA will be used as a template to make DNA within the host mammalian cell. Okay, so this is a normal process, right? The so formed viral DNA, referred to as provirus, gets incorporated its DNA into the host cell. Okay, now these provirus are normally harmless. However, there is a tremendous risk since some of the retrovirus can convert normal cells into a cancerous one. Therefore, it is absolutely essential to ensure that such a thing does not happen. So, normally what they are trying to say, it has been said here that the vectors that are used in the gene therapy are viruses, particularly retrovirus. The RNA is the main genetic material found in the retrovirus, right? So suppose this is the RNA. It is the main genetic material found in the retrovirus. Now this, when the retrovirus entered to the host cell, it synthesized DNA from RNA by reverse transcription. So it is synthesizing DNA from that RNA. First an mRNA DNA hybrid will be forming. First an mRNA DNA hybrid will form. Okay, this is your mRNA DNA hybrid. Better not to say mRNA. I'm eliminating this mRNA part. First, mRNA DNA hybrid is formed because the RNA is whole the genome of that retrovirus, right? And this is formed by the help of an enzyme called as reverse transcriptase. I'm writing them as capital RT. Then, with the help of another enzyme, called RNase, we will remove away the whole RNA. So left with DNA only. Left with DNA only. Okay, and then again with the help of an enzyme called DNA polymerase, I'm writing them as DNA pol. Okay, we will make double stranded DNA. Okay, so at this level, the DNA when it forms, okay, when this DNA forms, this viral DNA is called provirus. Okay, so this viral DNA is now called as provirus because the information is stored now in the DNA from RNA. Okay, so the so formed viral DNA referred to as provirus will be incorporated into the DNA of the host cell. Now this provirus will be included into the nucleus, into the host cell, right? So we are targeting this actually. We are focusing studying this part mainly. Okay. So this provirus is normally harmless. It is mentioned as we will study the viral genome. This provirus is normally harmless, but there will be a tremendous risk since some of the retrovirus can convert normal cells into cancerous ones. For that reason, we have to remove the pathogenic part, obviously. We have to remove the pathogenicity of this provirus. Where pathogenicity is there, we have to eliminate that part and transfer our gene of interest and introduce them into the genome of target cell. Okay. Now, to make them harmless, researchers employ certain biochemical methods to convert harmful retrovirus into an harmless one. Now, how it is possible? Before using this retrovirus as a vector, before using this retrovirus as a vector, researchers uses certain biochemical methods to convert the retrovirus, the harmful retrovirus, into a harmless one. Okay. Now, how it is possible? For instance, by artificially removing the gene. For instance, artificially, if we can able to remove a gene that encodes the envelope of the virus, okay, the retrovirus can be crippled and made harmless. Because without envelope, retrovirus cannot enter to the host cell. Okay, so I have said by artificially removing the gene which encodes for that viral capsid, which encodes for that viral envelope, retrovirus cannot enter to the host cell. So the production of large number of viral particles can be achieved starting from single envelope defective retrovirus. So first we have to prepare a defective retrovirus which will not able to, what can I say, infect the target cell. Okay, and from them we can prepare many of such of those vector. So for example, okay, so let us draw. So for example, this is a vector virus with defective envelope, okay. So this is your vector virus with defective envelope gene. That means here it will not able to produce the envelope because the gene is defective for that envelope production. Okay, now what we will do, now uh, wait for a minute. So with the help of helper virus particles, we allowing that envelope virus to be incorporated to the host cell. So if the vector virus is not having the envelope because the gene responsible for the envelope production is being defective, so retrovirus cannot enter to the host cell. But with the help of another virus which is acting as a helper, it will help that vector virus to enter. Okay, it will help that vector virus to enter. So with the help of a helper virus, I am drawing this with a green one. Okay, with the help of vector virus particles, okay, its genome is suppose green. Okay, and the round that I have drawn is actually, sorry for that, the round that we have drawn, I have drawn is your envelope. This the round, suppose you imagine them as envelope. Okay, and this one is the gene that also encodes for that envelope protein. So this one is your helper virus. I'm writing this HV, okay, because there is very short space. Okay, I will give you the diagram, whole diagram, next one. For now, for understanding this concept, you have to see this. So you can see here we are using a vector virus having defective envelope gene, and with the help of helper virus we are trying to insert them into the host cell. Host cell. Okay, we are trying to insert them into the host cell. So normally helper virus contain normal gene for their envelope production. Along with the helper virus, the vector having that defective envelope gene can enter to the host cell, and both of them can multiply. By repeated multiplication in the host cell, billions and billions of vector virus and helper virus can be produced. Okay, then it has to can be purified. So within the host cell, as we can see, the vector virus genome as well as the helper virus genome will be able to introduced. So the blue one is your the genome from the vector virus, and the green one is the genome of the helper virus having the gene responsible for the capsid production, whereas the vector virus don't have that gene for that capsid production. In this way we can create multiple, we can large scale, we can prepare of the vector virus from the host cell. When it will multiply, when it will multiply, we can create large number of vector viruses, and as well as we can also able to create helper viruses. Okay, so just by a unique technique, with the help of the vector virus is actually why we name it as vector virus, because within that vector virus we will introduce our gene of interest. But as it has a pathogenic part, we have to remove away the capsid, we have to remove away the envelope which is targeted for the host cell, but we are not using that. We will with the help of helper virus, we will try to introduce that vector virus into the our host cell, target host cell. There it will multiply and millions of vector virus as well as helper virus will be producing. The vector virus then can be separated from the helper virus by purification techniques. Isolation of vector virus is totally free from the helper virus is absolutely essential, because contamination of the helper virus can create a threat to the human, because it has been mixed within the host cell genome, so it has to be purified later on. Purification has to be done. Purification has to be done to separate this vector virus from the helper virus. Okay. Okay. Now I will try to demonstrate. I will try to demonstrate the um, uh, using of retrovirus in the gene therapy. So I think you have able to understood this part. I am repeatedly again I am trying to say with these things. So here what we have done, here we have used vector virus, the virus which will be used as a carrier molecule for our gene of interest, to make multiple copy of our gene within that vector virus. What we have done, we have removed out that defective, we have removed out that gene which codes for that capsid protein, and in order to introduce that vector virus within the host cell, target host cell, we with the help of helper virus we introduce them there within the host cell. It will multiply, and after that, after we get millions and millions of copies of that vector virus having our gene of interest inserted, we will purify them to separate from the helper virus. Okay. Okay. Okay, so an example has to be given now. This has not been mentioned here. So retrovirus in gene therapy. Now I will try to draw a genetic map on this in this figure, how it is used. So here I will draw a diagram. Okay, we have to mention the gene also here. 5' long terminal repeats, 3' long terminal repeats, 5' long terminal repeats, 3 3' long terminal repeats. Okay, now the other gene sequences. Psi gene, GAG, Pol, ENV, Psi gene, Chi, Rho. So the A figure that you can see here is the typical genetic map of a retrovirus. Normally, retrovirus consists of this type of genes. Okay, whereas the LTR that you can see here is the long terminal repeat sequence. Okay, The Psi gene that you can see here, this gene is responsible within the retrovirus. This gene, Psi gene, is responsible for packaging signal sequence. GAG, as you can see here, GAG has the GAG gene codes for the structural protein. POL, this sequence code for an enzyme called reverse transcriptase that we have seen before, and ENV codes for the envelope protein. It consists of a gene that actually codes for the envelope protein. Okay, so again I am repeating, this is the typical map of a retrovirus, the A figure that we can see, the above figure. The 5' LTR and 3' LTR are the long terminal repeats. Some repeated sequence are there. The Psi gene, the symbol that you can see here, it is used, it is actually the gene responsible for the packing signal sequence. GAG gene, actually it consists of a sequence code for the structural protein of the retrovirus. The POL gene codes for the reverse transcriptase enzyme, which will use the RNA to make DNA. The ENV codes for the envelope protein, which is normally eliminated from the vector virus. If it is used here, if it is used is for RNA as retrovirus. Okay, the bottom figure that you can see now, so I'm removing this, all of this. Okay, now you see the bottom figure. In the bottom figure, you see the same structural gene of retrovirus, but something has been eliminated, okay, to make them use as a vector. To make the retrovirus as a vector, what it has been mentioned, we have removed these two genes, GAG and POL. Obviously, we have also used the envelope gene. We have also removed the envelope gene. With the help of helper virus, we will provide that function into this vector. In place of GAG and POL, we have used this. Now, this is not, you can name them as alpha, beta, gamma here also. Actually, this is actually the therapeutic gene. The gene which has to be rectified. Therapeutic gene. Whereas the P is here, it is actually P, not rho. It is a short letter has been mentioned. That's why I cannot able to identify that. It is actually P. It has written small p, and small p codes for the promoter sequence for the proper expression of this therapeutic gene. Okay. So we replace this GAG, POL, and ENV with this sequence. Okay, so that it can able to deliver properly into the host cell. Okay, so normally what it is saying here, that in the above figure you can see, in the figure A, it is a genetic typical map of a retrovirus. Generally, retrovirus has an RNA genome organized into 6 regions. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 regions are there. It has a 5' long terminal repeat, okay, and 3' long terminate repeat. The 5' and 3' long terminal repeat do not code for any protein. It is a non-coding sequence. These 5' and 3' long terminal repeats, both of them having a non-coding sequence required for packaging RNA. Okay. Okay. Sorry for that. it codes for non coding. Okay, that means it does not code for any proteins. The 5 prime and 3 prime non coding, um, non terminal repeats. Then it has a sequence which is used for packaging the RNA molecules designated by this symbol of psi. So I'm removing all of them so you can able to understand. Okay, wait. Okay, so here let us see what they are trying to say. So the 5 prime long terminal repeat and 3 prime long terminal repeat are the repeated sequences which are found at the ends, extreme ends of the retroviral genome. It also consists of a non-coding sequence which are designated by psi. Here psi, psi letter is designated by this symbol. So this actually code for what? Code for packaging the RNA molecules. So this gene, psi gene, is required for packaging of RNA molecules, right? It is used for packaging of RNA molecules, both of them. Okay. Then there is a gene called GAG gene. There is a gene called GAG gene. There is a gene called GAG gene. Here you can see. Now GAG gene is coding for a structural protein. It codes for a structural protein. Okay. Then there is a gene called POL. Okay, this POL gene codes for reverse transcriptase. This gene code for reverse transcriptase, an enzyme which actually makes DNA from the RNA. And you can see an ANV protein which actually codes for the envelope protein. It codes for the envelope protein. And you can see a 3 prime LTR sequence is also there. Okay, now for using for using this retrovirus as a vector, we have to remove this GAG and POL gene. Okay, we have to remove this GAG and POL gene. This GAG and POL gene has to be removed out. Okay, it has to be removed out. These genes are actually adjacent to the psi region. So they are located adjacent near to the psi region. In addition, a promoter gene is also required for proper expression of that therapeutic gene. Here we have used the therapeutic gene designated as X, chi symbol. Okay, this is the chi symbol. Okay, and for introducing the promoter, we have to remove the envelope gene. The gene responsible for the envelope protein production also has to be removed out. So only the psi gene will be remaining here, which codes for the which codes for what? Which codes for the structural protein. Okay, no, not structural protein. Sorry, psi gene is actually responsible for packaging the RNA molecules into the host cell. So it is required for packaging. Okay, so it has to be retained here in this genome, whereas the GAG and POL genes, the ENV genes, has to be removed out. In that place, we will use a promoter and also the gene of interest, which is the therapeutic gene. Okay, so in this way, several modified viral vectors are being developed in recent years for gene therapy, and like adenovirus is used, adeno associated virus is used, herpes simplex virus, which is denoted by HSV, a number of hybrid vectors combining, that means with the help of helper virus as a vector. Okay, helper virus and both these vector viruses together used for the gene therapy. Okay, nowadays AIDS virus is also trying to be used in the gene therapy. Now it is suggested that your human immunodeficiency virus called as HIV can be used as a vector in the gene transfer, but this is bound to create public uproar. People may violate. Okay, that means ethical issue will come. Some worker has been successfully used in creating HIV virus by removing all those genes related with the reproduction, like the simple genes that you can see here, the gag and the pol gene, right? The gag and the pol genes can be removed out. You can remove, so normally all the retrovirus including HIV have this, all the genes present, right? So nowadays HIV virus can also be used as a vector, but it will create to people uproar. People may get violent. Okay, some workers are trying to create harmless HIV. Uh, the harmless HIV virus are also called as crippled, CRIPPLED, crippled HIV. That HIV, crippled HIV, is produced by removing all the genes related to the reproduction. At the same time, essential genes required for gene transfer are also retained. So, related to the reproduction part of HIV, that genes are eliminated, removed out. But the genes which are responsible for the genes required for the gene transfer is remained. Now there is an advantage of HIV virus as a vector. If you compare with other virus, they are capable to bring out gene transfer only in dividing cells, but HIV virus can also able to infect the non-dividing cells as well. That's the main reason. Okay, that why scientists are focusing on HIV virus. Again I repeat, HIV virus is destined also, it can infect the non-dividing cells also, like the nerve cells, the brain cells, and to do the job of gene transfer effectively. However, it is doubtful that whether HIV can be ever be used as a vector in future or not. But nowadays we are trying to prepare HIV virus as a vector. Okay, because HIV virus can also infect the non-dividing cells. It has the capability of infecting the non-dividing cells as well. So this was all uh, about the virus as a vector. In the next series of lectures, I will try to discuss about the how human artificial chromosomes are used as a vector, and bone marrow cells, and some examples related with this ex vivo gene therapy, especially your SCID will be mentioned here because it is given in your in these books normally. Okay, so that's for all, and I'm repeatedly asking you that you have to watch this video. Okay, because I'm not able to make a live because I have a net issue, so that I can able to not able to you can I not able to what can I say, provide you that lecture. Okay, live sessions. So you have to watch this video, and then for any questions you have to answer. You have to answer. You have, if you have any query, you have to ask me in the WhatsApp group. Okay. So that's for all for today's lecture. I hope you have understood. It takes little bit time to understand this concept. Okay.